To wrap up the section about the principles behind negotiation, I want to talk about how you can move away from the realm of principles or theory and into practice, which is what a lot of the remainder of the course will be focused on. A lot of the people I talk to about negotiation, they nod their head along when I talk about the different ideas. But when it comes to hopping on the call with the recruiter, a high stakes situation, it's very hard to put that into practice. So it's worth thinking about why is that? Why are we so bad at negotiation generally? And the reason is actually pretty simple, is that the way we operate when we're on a job and we're working with a manager within our team is so different compared to how we should operate when we are negotiating. So for example, in a job, one of the ideas of a good job or a successful working relationship is that you have a shared understanding. You have vulnerability. And so if you have a really good manager, I would argue that it's actually a great thing to just share with them, hey, here's what I'm concerned about, and having that open conversation. Your goal is to make other people feel comfortable. And hopefully other people around you will also try to make you feel comfortable, right? You want to think ahead about, okay, what are the main issues on the team? What are the main concerns of my manager or other people? And how can I mitigate those concerns to make them comfortable? On the other hand, you have negotiations. And here, it's almost the opposite, where there's a minimal understanding or trust between the recruiter and you, or the company and you. And so you have to overcome that trust barrier, which is already assumed implicitly when you've taken the job. And the other thing is, this sounds a little bit weird to say, but the goal in some ways is for the company or recruiter to make you uncomfortable. If they feel like by putting pressure on you or by adding a deadline on the offer, by making you uncomfortable, if they can get you to agree or sign the offer, they will do that, which is a very different mode of thinking compared to how we operate on the job. And so if you look at where do we spend our time in our career, 95% plus of our time is, hey, we're working a job and we're trying to do our best. We're trying to make impact and get promoted. Only 1% of our time is actually in these really tense, high stakes situations with companies about negotiation. So it's no wonder that we're bad at negotiation when the division of time is so lopsided toward the things that we are optimizing for on the job, as opposed to the rare occasion that we're actually negotiating with people. So how can we remedy that? How can we actually practice the skills that are so important for that 1% of time when we're actually negotiating? So I have a couple, first of all, in terms of like the frequency, an engineer, when you talk to a recruiter, you're going to be practicing maybe several times a year, if that. If you go out and get one or two offers throughout the year, you might get a couple opportunities to practice. A recruiter, on the other hand, their whole job is to recruit good people into the company. That means that they're probably going to be practicing the pitch and addressing concerns and putting pressure on people several times per week. Okay, so in terms of tips, number one, for the dialogue that I'll be sharing in this course, or the dialogue that you think is appropriate in your situation, I want you to practice saying it out loud. Don't just read it and nod your head. Practice saying it. And even better is practicing it with a friend. Like grab a friend who says, hey, you're going to be the recruiter or the company, and I'm going to be me. Let's role play how this conversation might go. The same thing is true what I tell people with mock interviews, right? If you're doing an interview at a company, go find a mock interviewer. Like go find someone who can give you real advice and have the adrenaline flowing through you because they're judging you as you're solving the problem. The other tactical piece of advice here is to keep things in writing. It's very easy to screw up or say something unintentional when you're on a phone call. And when you put things in writing, you can be way more measured about it. You can be way more deliberate about the phrasing and words that you use to communicate the message you want. And so if you feel like you're having a hard time remembering or negotiating effectively on a phone call, which I don't blame you, I think most of us would, given the information asymmetry and the amount of practice that recruiters will have versus you, then try and move away from verbal conversations into written conversations. Okay, that was all I had in terms of the principles behind negotiation. In the next module, we'll talk about what are the tactics and ways of operating that will optimize your negotiation before you have the offer.